Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 2023 NCBBA Women's Basketball Annual League Meeting. My name is Alec Bierhoff, and I will be your host through this meeting tonight. I'd just like to start off by thanking everybody for tuning in tonight. I'll try not to take up too much of your time here, but we do have a lot of good information that we'd like to get through throughout this evening. So let's jump right on in. So the first thing I like to talk about is that these slides are downloadable. You can go to our website at womens.ncbbabasketball.org and you can download them. They are in the headline section, which is on the main page. You can follow along as we go through, or you can save these for later. There's a lot of great information on them. Also, this is an interactive meeting, so if you have any questions at all, you can put those in the comment section. We do have Christian Smith, who is manning the comments tonight for us. So if if you do have any questions, just put your team affiliation in there, put what team you're with, and then ask the question. Christian will either stop me so I can answer for you, or Christian will answer in the comments if he's able to do so. So this is where we're located, the NCBBA. We are in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, off 850 Ridge Avenue. As you can see on there, we also have our office phone line, as well as the website and the social media platforms. So here's our agenda for this evening. As you can see here, we've got quite a bit of good stuff to go through. And again, I don't want to take up too much of your time here, so we're just going to jump right on in. So we'll start with what is Call Club Sports. We are the National Federation of Collegiate Club Sports Leagues. Essentially, Call Club Sports is the umbrella parent company for the National Club Basketball Association. So while I'm sure most of you are here because you are affiliated with a women's basketball team of some sort, we do also offer several other leagues. We started with the National Club Baseball Association, which was founded in 2000. That started with 34 teams and has grown to over 300, split between 3 divisions. Next, we came up with the National Club Softball Association. This was founded in 2006 and has grown to over 140 teams, and they're actually splitting off into a second division next year, so very excited for that. After that came the National Club Football Association. This was founded in 2009 and has grown to 25 teams. And finally, we started club basketball back in 2013 with our men's league. This has grown to almost 130 teams over the years. And last but not least, we have the our women's league, the NCBBA-W. We started back in 2019. Started with 52 teams. As you can see there, that is the record for an inaugural season for any of our leagues. And we've grown to 67 teams, which is what we had this past season. So our mission statement, as I was saying, we are a compilation of governing bodies that oversee collegiate club sports. And basically what we're here to do is provide you with the opportunity to compete in competitive, organized collegiate club athletics and to enhance this experience for you year in and year out. We look to do this by building relationships based on trust, commitment, dedication, understanding, and strong lines of communication. So let's meet the NCBBA front office. First, we have our president and fearless leader, Sandy Sanderson. He is the one that got all this started back in 2000 with the National Club Baseball Association. Next, we have our vice president of baseball operations, Christian Smith. We met him just a little bit ago. He is the one manning the comment section tonight. Then we have myself, Alec Bierhoff. I am the director of women's basketball operations, as well as the director of women's basketball development. We have Antonio Sacca, who is our SID or Sports Information Director. He's the one who's putting this presentation on tonight. He is the man behind the camera. Our treasurer is Sandy Sanderson Sr. Felicia Battaglia is the sponsor account manager for the game headwear, which is the official headwear of the NCBBA, which we will touch on later. And Eric Curator is our VP of marketing. He oversees a lot of our sponsor account managers. So we will also touch on a lot of what he does later as well. So our regional directors, as you can see here, we have 7 regions. They're all to be determined at this point. This past season, I oversaw each one of them. This is something that we are looking to find volunteers for and find people to, help us run these regions. Call Club Sports could not exist without all of the volunteers that we have across all of our leagues. So this is something that we're looking for volunteers to kind of step up and help us out with this. Again, something else that we'll touch on a little later. So if it's something that sounds interesting to you, keep that in your back pocket, and there will be more information on this later. Again, if you're just joining in, these slides are downloadable. You can find them on our website. They are in the headlines section, which is on the main page. Also, this is an interactive meeting, so if you have any questions at all, just comment your team affiliation and then your question, and Christian, who's in the comment section, will stop me and we can get that answered for you. So before we get into the coming 23-24 season, I do want to give some recognition to some teams and players that we had for the 22-23 season. Here are our skills competition winners. Our skills competition, they are during the national championship tournament. So we hosted these back in April. They are held the Saturday of that tournament before we play the semifinal games. So as you see here, we have Grace Peterson, who won the obstacle course. She's from Grand Valley State. Lauren Carey from Boston College won our Shooters Chaos competition, and Tiffany Martirosian, I apologize if I butchered that name, she's from Villanova, and she won our three-point contest. So congratulations to all of them, and thank you for participating back in April. Here we have the bracket for our 2022-23 National Championship Tournament. And finally, our 2022-23 NCBBA-W National Champions were the Nevada Wolfpack. So congratulations to them. They were an awesome team and a great group of girls. They traveled to Erie all the way from Reno, Nevada, brought 6 girls, and they won the whole thing. So again, congratulations to them. So what's to come for the 23-24 season? There's a list of things we'll be going over there. Again, don't want to take up too much time here, so we're just going to jump right in. So the new teams that we already have under contract, as you can see, are up at the top of this slide. We have 7 new teams signed on for the 23-24 season. Very happy to have all of them. So warmest of welcomes to all 7 of them. And below that, you can see those are the teams that have expressed interest for the 23-24 season. So obviously the end goal here is to add as many of these teams as possible and grow the league as much as we can. Here's the growth over the years. As I said earlier, we started in 1920, and we started with 52 teams. We unfortunately had to take the next season off due to COVID, but we picked back up in 21-22. And from there, we had 59 teams. So we saw a little bit of growth even through COVID. And then this past season, we had 67 teams, inching up even more. And for the 23-24 season on there, you can see that's an estimation. We are hoping to hit the 80 mark or even go past that. So for our fall tip-off tournaments, we hosted our 2nd annual Happy Valley Fall Tip-Off in State College, PA this past season back in November. This was a 7-team tournament where Ohio State defeated Pittsburgh by a score of 62-47. So congrats to them. This was a great tournament, only 7 teams, but of those 7 teams, I believe 3 of them were national championship teams. And even the year prior, we saw at least 2 national championship teams there with a handful of other playoff teams. So there's always good competition out in State College. And as we move into 2023, we are looking to expand on the fall tournaments that we offer. We are looking to get something started in the Great Lakes or Mid-America areas. Everybody that participates is guaranteed 3 games. And these 3 games, they count as official NCBBA non-conference games. So they do count toward your record. They're just not counted toward your conference record. So as we get going through the summer and we hopefully lock down at least one more of these, be on the lookout. We will get that information out once we have it. So our Titan Athletics top 15 poll, prior to the season, the NCBBA, we put together a panel of NCBBA staff and volunteers for this voting panel. And every other week, basically, we release a top 15 poll. So everybody on this panel, they vote on who they think are the 15 best teams. While this is something that obviously is fun, it also does serve a purpose. This determines who hosts the regional playoffs. So the highest ranked team in the region will host the regional tournament. And this also is 25% of the national championship tournament seeding formula. So it ties into the postseason. And again, like with the regional directors, this is something else that we are looking to fill with volunteers. So, if this is something that piques your interest, it's not a huge time commitment. It's once the season gets going, it's every other week. Maybe take 20 minutes to fill out the ballot and send that back over to me, and that's really all there is. So we're just looking for people who are unbiased and have a love for college club basketball. And so if that's something you're interested in, you can contact me and I'll get you more information on that. Here is the Titan Athletics Top 15. This is what it looks like. This was our final poll for the 22-23 season. As you can see, Nevada, our national champions, they were the unanimous number one to close out the season. So conference realignment prior to the season starting. So in August, whenever we finish collecting paperwork for renewal teams and we finish adding new teams, basically what we do as the NCBBA is we will sit down and we'll take a look at our membership. We'll see where we have teams and we'll see if anybody needs to move to a new conference or, maybe we split a conference, but we will always look to put you in the best geographical fit for your team, to minimize travel as much as we can. As we're going through this, like I said, we hope to surpass that 67 team count mark that we had for this past season. And hopefully we can get something going down in the Gulf Coast, get our 8th region going down in the Texas area. And we are also looking to expand down in Southern California out west and down in the Carolinas and Florida, Georgia area in the South Atlantic. So for conference scheduling, what we do is we send out what we call our schedule request form. This is a form that breaks the season down by weeks. And basically each team fills this out and they let us know their availability for the season. So whenever you get this, it's very important to have your academic calendar in front of you so you can let us know when you're leaving for, Thanksgiving break, winter break, spring break, those weekends. Make sure to mark all of that off. Let us know what weekends you absolutely can't play. We'll send this out in August, and we like them back by September 1st. That's the deadline to get those in. Please always make sure to adhere to those deadlines because whenever you don't, it just makes things a lot more difficult on us. So get that in by September 1st. We get those back from every team, and that's how we match you up. We match you up based off your availability and the availability of other teams, and that's how we create the conference schedules. Here is a sample of that schedule request form. As you can see, broken down by weeks, and it has, the availability of the team and any reason that they might want off, just so we know going into it when we, can and can't schedule you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Christian.
We got a question from Kinea. I apologize if I'm not saying her name correct, but she is from Northeastern. This is in regards. I apologize for getting to it late, but this was in regards to the Titan Top 20 pool. She's asking what the criteria is for the rankings.
Criteria, as in how we rank people, or criteria to be on the poll or the panel.
Maybe both. She didn't
specify.
Yeah. Both.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we'll start with what we look for when we're voting. So, everybody is entitled to their own opinions with that. But what we do is, take a look at the standings, see who's playing well. Take a look at matchups, see if there's been any big matchups. Maybe we've had an upset that pushes somebody into the top 15. We have, for example, somebody like Ohio State, who was undefeated all through the regular season. You see 10-0, and you immediately think that's one of the 15 best teams in the league. So those are kind of some of the things that we look for. And as far as being on the panel itself, really we're just looking for volunteers that are unbiased. You obviously can't have a bias toward any specific team, but somebody who can cast an unbiased vote, and somebody who also will be there every other week to submit that ballot. But hopefully I got that question answered for you. If not, feel free to comment again with Christian, and I'll do my best to answer those questions for you. But moving into the regular season for the NCBBA, the regular season will always begin that first weekend in November, so November 1st, and it will run through March, so March 24th being our last day of the regular season here. That'll be in 2024. And with that conference scheduling, like I was talking about earlier, you will play each of your conference opponents in a 2-game series. Once we get that schedule released, which we look to do around mid-September, so September 15th is usually that target date. Once we get that released, you can supplement any, off weekends with non-conference matchups. The one thing you do need to do about that, if you want them to count toward your overall record, you just need to let me know ahead of time, and I get those added to the schedule. And those can be played against any sort of collegiate basketball team, whether that's a club team not in the league, a club team that's in a different conference in the league, or NAIA, NCAA, JUCO, whatever it is. As long as they're a collegiate organization, then that can count toward your overall record. So again, with the regular season, as you play out that conference schedule, you'll play those games on weekends, and every Monday night, or by Monday night, I should say, everybody will submit what we call our weekly team submission form via email. This is how we get your scores. So you put your scores for that weekend on here. You can also nominate a player of the week. So this is, this is another one of those things that we talk about with adhering to the deadlines. We ask for these back by 11:59 p.m. on Monday night. So you have, after the games, you have all day Monday to get those in. It's something that we always harp on that needs to be done a little bit better. The quicker you get those in, the quicker we can update scores. Just makes things easier for everybody. Also make sure if you're nominating players of the week to keep stats during your games. The more stats you can include, again, obviously the better for us, the easier it is to make those submissions. And then we will pick those conference players of the week on Tuesdays. And then on Wednesdays, we will choose 2 national player of the week. So 2024 regional tournaments, this is at the conclusion of the regular season. Depending on how you do in your conference, you can qualify for these regional tournaments. We have 7 regions right now. Obviously, as we continue to grow, the overall goal here is for us to get to 8 regions with 3 conferences per region and 7 teams per conference. Sorry about that. But these regional tournaments, they're held about 2 to 3 weeks before the national championship. If you win this, you get an automatic bid to the national championship tournament. And as I said earlier, this is hosted at the highest ranking team in the region's home court. Again, like I said, these are held 2 to 3 weeks prior to the national championship. So some tentative dates that we have right now is April 6th and April 7th. So the 2024 National Championship Tournament, again, tentative dates on this, April 19th through the 21st. We always look to make sure, we plan it around Easter, which is March 31st this year. So we're very clear of that. But this is an 8-team single elimination tournament where the 7 regional winners all get an automatic bid. And then we, as the NCBBA, we choose an at-large bid for this, which as it'll be the 8th team, and they are essentially the runner-up that we feel is most deserving, the runner-up from a regional that we feel is most deserving based off their resume throughout the season. This is something that we've already started looking into for the 2024 season. The past 2 years, we've hosted this tournament at Mercyhurst University in Erie, Pennsylvania, which has been an awesome venue. It's a beautiful Division II college with beautiful facilities. So it's always an option to go back there. Nothing is official, so we will continue to look, but we do want to find a court that exceeds expectations and makes this feel prestigious and makes everybody feel like they're playing for a national championship. So if you know of anywhere, or maybe your college, your university has a nice court, or if you know of any others, feel free to let me know. I'm more than happy to look into them. Again, back to the national championship, these are the criteria, the priorities that actually the teams voted on last year on how we choose the location. So I believe they've actually voted the last 2 years on this. But these are the priorities that were chosen. As you can see, court surface, hardwood, over sport court, small collegiate arena, which we had at Mercyhurst University, it being centrally located, which Erie was to an extent for the teams that we have in the league, even if it's not within the country, centrally located based on where our team membership is. It's pretty centrally located, looking for auxiliary practice facilities, on-site locker rooms, and the bottom priority was separate from the men's championship, which teams didn't seem to be opposed to. So these last 2 years, we hosted both men's and women's in Erie, Pennsylvania, and it worked out great. We've had a couple teams where both the men's and women's, a couple schools where both the men's and women's teams made it. It's been cool to see kind of support each other. Things that we can improve on for the national championship. We'd love to get players from teams that aren't in the tournament to come compete in this year's competition. Just love to get as many teams recognition out there. Look to get some partnerships with local businesses, get some sponsors, restaurants, or bowling out, whatever it might be, something fun. But look to get a little bit more involved in the local communities. Also, advertising to the local communities more. So, maybe as much as we love your friends and family coming out to this tournament, we'll have to have some local talent. Maybe kind of mention that this week. Again, if you're just tuning in, these slides are downloadable on our website, as you see there. Just go to the website, and it's in the headline section, which is on the main page. And again, this is an interactive meeting, so if you have any questions throughout this meeting, just put your team affiliation in the comments, followed by your question. We have Christian Smith manning the comments section, and he will stop me, so then I can answer those questions for you. So next, we're going to get into some team operations. I think this is really important. Whether you're a new team to the league, a returning team, an experienced president, even an inexperienced president, it's important for everybody. And one thing that I think is one of the most important keys to running a successful club is having strong lines of communication and being organized, which you will see in all of these team operations slides. So, as always, please just make sure that you're communicating with us. But we'll get into this with our league participation agreement, which is also known as our LPA. This is the form essentially that locks you in. This was due date for this for renewal LPAs was June 1st. Don't freak out if you see that. You're not going to kick you out of the league, but please make sure you get that in as soon as possible. Make sure you're communicating with me at the very least, and I'll work with you as much as I can. But we'll continue sending these out to new teams through the summer and wrap that up in August. But this form needs to be signed by the team president as well as a faculty rep at the school, and then sent back over to me with the NCBA. We also have our registration form, which is also important. It is essentially so we can have the most up-to-date contacts on file for your team, so I can make sure that I am sending out emails to the current contacts. Schedule request form, which I touched on just a little bit ago. Like I said, this is how we know when we can schedule you. This is due back September 1st. So, again, please fill this out and be as clear and concise as possible. And please make sure to meet that deadline of September 1st. But these will get sent out in August, so be on the lookout as we get back into the school year. Also, our general liability insurance. In each team, whenever you're in the league, included in your membership is our general liability insurance policy. This covers not only us, but it also covers the teams. And it's helped to protect, again, us and you, the teams, from any potential financial losses from lawsuits. But one thing to keep in mind is that this is not a health insurance policy. So if you get hurt or anything, you can't take this to a hospital. It can be covered that way, but it is to protect you as well as this. There's reserving court space. This is a big one, and this is something you do not want to procrastinate on. You get these schedules out mid-September, season start in September. So even if you're scheduled to early portion of that season in that first week, so we can you procrastinate and you wait until the week of, a couple weeks before. This is something that you could be running this and piggybacking off of that.
Hey, Alec.
Yeah, go ahead, Christian.
Just we're having a little bit of audio difficulty hearing you right now. Is there anything? We apologize, everybody that's tuning in for these audio issues we're having. But I don't know if you can unplug your mic and try plugging it back in. But I want to try and take over the meeting while we try and figure out your audio issues. But can you hear me right now?
I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. Do you want to try talking again?
Yeah, so I'll pick back up at scheduling referees. I'm not really sure where the audio issues came in here, but again, scheduling referees, something that we release the schedule well in advance. A month and a half before the season actually starts.
And Alec, you're sounding a little bit better. Sorry for interrupting, but
perfect, awesome. But yeah, again, so just make sure to schedule those referees in advance. If you don't have them for the games, then you are running the risk of forfeits. Let's see if we can move on to the next slide here. So team manager access and online player registration. So prior to the season, your team president or your team rep will be granted team manager access by us, the NCBBA. And with this, you will receive, you'll create a profile and you will be able to receive the team code. The team code is something that all of your players need to register online. So everybody will go in, create their own player. They use that team code, and the players will fill out information which determines their eligibility. And after they fill that information out, they will be placed into a registration queue. And from there, we would need an academic letter, which we'll touch on but they need that to get to the active roster. But again, that's something we'll touch on, I believe, here in a couple slides. The coaches' participation waivers. This is for coaches or anybody that wants to be on the bench that is not a player. So coaches, a statistician, somebody just running the book, anybody that is not a player that wants to be on the bench during games will need to fill this out. You can find it on our website under the info documents tab, and it needs to be filled out and sent back over to me, and then you're good to go. The academic eligibility letter, which I briefly touched on as we were talking about the team manager access and player registration. This is a form where basically you will put your entire team on this and you'll submit it to somebody in the school who has the capability to sign off that you meet our academic eligibility requirements. So whether that's somebody in the registrar office or sometimes club sports directors can sign off on this as well, but you submit it to them and they're signing off on it, verifying that everybody meets the full-time student status. They have at least a 2.0 GPA, and they are in good academic standing with no academic probation. But again, this is something you don't want to procrastinate on, because if you don't submit this prior to your first games, you won't have an active roster, and again, you would be running the risk of forfeiture with that. Uploading player stats and team information. This is something that the team manager has access to do. So once you get that team manager access, you can go into your player portal on the back end. You can access the manager side of things, and you can go into each individual game and upload stats for each individual player. Again, this is something that as a league as a whole, we need to be better about. Put the stats on there. Take advantage of our website's capabilities. And if you keep up with it after your games on a week-to-week basis, it really doesn't take that long. So try to stay on top of that and get that taken care of as the games are getting played. Weekly team submission forms we touched on earlier. These are how you will get your scores and your player of the week nominations to the NCBBA. You play your games on weekends, and you will send these over to us by Monday following your games at 11:59 p.m. The NCBBA dues. Included in your dues, every team does receive 3 NCBBA official game basketballs, as well as that limited liability insurance that I touched on a little bit ago. But there are a couple payments associated with your dues and with the league. So first is the performance bond, which is $150. This is due October 15th. And it's essentially a deposit. So if you forfeit any games, we deduct $50 for every game that you forfeit. And if you don't, then this can either be rolled over to the next season or refunded at the end of the season, whichever you prefer. Then we have our annual league dues, which is $925. That's due February 28th. You can get an early discount period, or you can get an early discount on that. You get $100 off if you pay by December 31st. You can pay that by sending in a check to our office, or we can send you an invoice so you can pay online via credit card, whichever you prefer. So another big part with your team is boosting team interest. Maybe that means you go to the student involvement fair and you set up a booth, put up flyers around campus, advertise on campus, create social media platforms, whatever it might be. Just try to boost interest in the team as much as possible, because you always want more players and more competition for those spots. And you have 18 roster spots with the NCBBA, so you might as well take advantage of those. But also boosting team morale. Once you have all your players, once you have your team, make sure to get them together off the court as much as possible. Maybe you go out to eat, or maybe you go bowling, whatever it may be. Just make sure, try to get everybody together off the court as much as you can. Build those relationships, and it'll help the chemistry on the court as well. Road trips are always good at building team chemistry. And it's important to maybe switch up the rooming list, so you're rooming with people that you don't know as well, getting to know everybody on the team. Budgeting, this might be the most important part of being a club team, having your own club team in the league. It's very important to set your accurate budget. Make sure to budget for everything. That's league dues, referees, court costs if you need them. But always make sure to budget for the postseason as well. You don't want to qualify for the postseason and then not have the money for it. We've had that happen. Not only is it a bad look on us as a league not having teams show up for the postseason, it's a bad look on the team as well. So just try to avoid that as much as you can, and try to budget for that postseason, even if you don't think that you'll make it. Player dues, this varies from team to team. How much do you charge? What's included in it? Is it travel? Is it uniforms? Practice, whatever it might be. That's up to you as a team. And I played club baseball in college. I know that we paid $150 per semester. So that just gives you kind of an idea that that funded our entire season. Some teams also get funding from the school, so that's something else to take into account when coming up with the amount that you want to charge the players. Team equipment and uniforms. This again is something else that you want to make sure that you get on top of in order prior to the season starting. Per NCBBA rules, the jersey tops have to match all together. That's in color. in, whatever it is, and stripes, whatever it might be, has to match completely. While the jersey bottoms just have to match in color. So if you got if you had black tops, black jersey tops, they all have to match. And then you get black shorts. If one person has Nike, one has Under Armour, that doesn't matter as long as they match in color. So just make sure to order that as quick as possible prior to the season starting, so you can look good on the court and not look sloppy with mismatched jerseys. So on our website, we have what's called the Guide to Collegiate Club Basketball. You can find this under the Info Documents tab. This is a 6-chapter Prezi presentation that we put together, we as the NCBBA put together. And it basically goes over every part of having a club team, whether you're just starting, whether you're around and looking to join the NCBBA, whether you're already in the NCBBA. There's a lot of useful information in there on just how to build a successful club basketball team. And as you can see, we have the chapter titles there. Those are the 6 chapters that are in the presentation. So here's our timetable going into the 23-24 season. As I said earlier, that June 1st deadline for the renewal LPA has passed. Again, it's a flexible deadline. I say that with a little bit of hesitation. You are not, we're not going to keep you out of the league if you haven't submitted that, but at the same time, that does need to be submitted as soon as possible. So if you're watching this and you haven't sent in the LPA, or you're not sure if you have, reach out to me, just be in communication with me, and I will work with you as much as I can. June 21st is tonight, where we're having our annual league meeting. June 30th is an estimated date on when those voting ballots will be due. We'll get to the voting ballots here in a little bit and how all of that will work. September 1st is when the schedule request forms are due, which we've touched on a couple times. And the tentative date that we try to get those schedules released is September 15th, just always in that mid-September timeframe. October 15th, team previews are due, as well as the $150 performance bond, which I touched on just a little bit ago. October 26th will be the Thursday prior to the regular season starting. So this is when we'll get our preseason Titan Athletics Top 15 poll released, and then we will go every other week from there. The regular season starts on November 1st, as I stated earlier. It's important that prior to the season starting and your games getting played, that you have all of your players registered online, as well as that academic eligibility letter submitted to me, so you can have an active roster for these games. December 31st is the deadline to receive the annual league dues discount. So that's whenever you get the $100 off those annual dues. And then the dues are due in full no later than February 28th. March 24th is the tentative date for the regular season conclusion. So we'll go till about the end of March there. And then April 6th and 7th is when we're possibly looking to have those regional tournaments. Tentative dates there, but it'll be around that time frame. And following that, April 19th through the 21st is when we will be looking to have our national championship tournament. So next we'll get into some sponsors and fundraising. First up, we have Fundraiser, which is, as you can guess, probably our fundraising sponsor that we have. Eric Curator is our sponsor account manager for that. So if this is anything that interests you, his email is down there. You can also get in contact with me and I can put you in touch with him. But essentially, Fundraiser is similar to a GoFundMe account, where you create an account, and it's something that you blast out on social media, whether it be Facebook, Twitter, whatever it might be, and people can donate to it. It's something that we've seen teams raise a lot of money through. We've seen teams, turn it into a competition to where they try to see, what player can get the most donated for them. We've seen teams like Florida Club Football. They created sub campaigns for each individual player, which is tied into the main master account, and they do it that way, and they saw success. So there's plenty of possibilities. This is the Cal Poly Club baseball team. Back in 2022, they raised $17,000 for their trip to Greenwood, South Carolina, which is where the World Series was. I'm not saying that every team will raise $17,000, but as you can see, the possibilities are there. You definitely can raise a lot of money doing this. You just have to work hard to get it out there and advertise it. And, just see if you can get people to donate to you. Again, sticking with Eric as the account manager, we have our travel sponsor, which is Motel 6. They're the official lodging partner of the NCBBA. Teams, players, fans, everybody can get a minimum of a 10% discount. So, if you're looking to stay overnight as you maybe go on a road trip, you can use our booking portal that you see there. You can also call into the number that's listed below and use our corporate ID number and book those rooms and get that discount. But again, you can contact Eric Curator for that. His email is down below. You can also contact me, and I can put you in contact with Eric. So the game sponsor account manager is Felicia Battaglia. The game is the official headwear of the NCBBA. I know you might be thinking like, we're basketball teams. What do we need hats for? And you're right. You don't necessarily need hats. This isn't baseball, but at the same time, these hats are a great fundraising opportunity. You can fully customize them. They have options of beanies, boonies, visors, regular hats. You can use custom colors. You can also have your logo put on them, and maybe I'm not exactly sure how much they cost, but maybe you buy them at $15 per hat and you sell them for $25, and you're making a $10 profit on every hat. So it's a great way to fundraise for your club basketball team. You do get discounts through our partnership with the game. The earlier you order, the more of a discount you can get. Each hat will have the NCBBA logo on it at no charge. That logo is what you see there in the top right corner of your screen. But again, Felicia is the contact for that. Felicia.battaglia@callclubsports.com. You can always email her again, or you can email me and I will put you in touch with her. Back to Eric. He is our in charge of our Rawlings sponsor account on the basketball side of things. Rawlings is the official basketball of the NCBBA. So, like I said earlier, each NCBBA member team will receive 3 official NCBBA basketballs at no extra charge. This is included with your membership to the league. These basketballs do need to be used for any NCBBA sanctioned basketball game. If you don't, you are running the risk of, possible forfeit, having teams protest against you. But each team has the NCBBA artwork on it as well. So that shield logo that you see in the top right corner. If you've been around your team for a little bit, you might remember we've been with Wilson in the past for our basketballs. So for this first year with Rawlings, you are able to use those Wilson basketballs as well, as long as they're the NCBBA official basketballs from the past couple years. But in year 2, so in 24-25, our partnership with Rawlings, it will be strictly Rawlings basketballs. You'll receive an equipment form via email prior to the season starting, where you'll just fill in a little bit of information, what team you're with, your name, the address you'd like those shipped to, and then we'll get those to Rawlings to hopefully ship out as soon as possible. But we always recommend that whenever you're filling this out, use an on-campus address, maybe a club sports department, maybe use their address so it can get delivered there and they can hang on to it for you. We've seen time and time again when teams will put their apartment address and those either get lost in transit or they get stolen, and at that point it just creates a messy situation for everybody. Titan Athletics is the jersey, the uniform sponsor for the NCBBA. I am actually in charge of that one. So we go through Titan for our uniforms. They're fully customizable. They have a 4 to 5 week turnaround, which for customizable jerseys is pretty quick. But it's the same thing where you get discounts through them, through our partnership with them. It'll have the NCBBA Shield logo on it, as well as whatever your team logo is that you'd like on there. But again, something if you're interested in, I can put you in touch with Titan. here's a few samples of their products. They have very, very nice jerseys. And again, that's UCLA, Coastal Carolina, and Creighton, just as those examples. So next, we're going to get into our voting ballot procedures. So basically, what this is, we're going to use this time to go over how the voting ballot works for our rule proposals and potential rule changes. So if there's anything that you would like, you can put this in the comment section. We will address these one at a time. It's an open forum, so you can put that in the comment section. Like I said, it'll be the same type of thing where Christian will stop me, he'll read it aloud, and then basically what needs to happen is if you propose a new rule or a rule change, that will need to get seconded by another team. So, somebody proposes a rule, we'll read that rule proposal aloud and then say, does anybody second this? And then if somebody does, then that is added to our rules voting ballot. Each team has the opportunity to vote on that. We'll get that out sometime shortly after this meeting. And then every member team will have around a week to cast their vote on the voting ballot. And then, if it passes, it gets added to the rule book, or, maybe it's something that just gets changed in the rule book, but you will have the opportunity to vote on that. So now I'd like to open the floor to anybody. If you have any rule proposals, any new rules, any rule modifications, proposals, feel free to put those in the comments. And like I said, Christian will read that aloud, and then we can see if anybody seconds that. I do believe there's a little bit of a delay from me talking to the Facebook Live feed, so I will give us plenty of time to see if anybody has anything.
And hey, Alec, can you hear me?
I can. You go ahead.
We don't have anything as of yet. Just giving you an update. We don't have anything proposed just yet. But if something does come through, I will be sure to let you know ASAP. But the way we did with the men's meeting, we kind of moved on to the your next slide. And if anything comes through, I will be sure to interrupt you and we can discuss it.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we move on to the next slide, again, I do just want to say that if you do have anything, once again, put it in the comment section. Christian will read that aloud, and then we'll see if anybody seconds that, and then we will go from there. So just a few reminders here as we kind of wrap things up. People.
Alec, I apologize for interrupting.
Go ahead, Christian.
We have some comments from Alexa Varlamos. She just wrote shot clock. We also got from Grace Coulter adding a shot clock as well. And then we have modify rule from Michael Engdahl. Modify rule 6.07.01. Change final semester to final academic year for less than full-time load. We also have, just want to make sure we get these, I think 2 back-to-back games of stopped clock is hard, especially for teams with fewer members. Is that a rule that's up for discussion? So that's from Haley Robbins. I would like if the people can put what team they are with. Michael Engdahl, if you can let us know your team affiliation, if you're a coach or what team you're with.
Mike is the head coach for Edinburgh University. And
okay. Are they
I think
members
on
of
that
the
one,
NC?
They are. They're new members. On that one, me and him have discussed this, and I think I can elaborate on that rule proposal real quick, and then we can get to those others as well. But I know with Mike, what he's referring to is, within our rules right now, if you are graduating at the end of a spring semester, you don't have to be taking full-time course load as long as you're taking enough credits to graduate. So you don't have to be taking 12 credit hours as long as you are taking enough to graduate at the end of that semester. We do have situations sometimes where, maybe somebody's going into their senior year and they still have 2 semesters left, but only some courses are allowed in the fall and some are allowed in the spring. So, for example, if somebody has 18 credit hours left to graduate, but they can only take 9 in the fall and 9 in the spring, just based on when those courses are available through their university, they would then be ineligible in the fall and eligible in the spring since they're graduating at the spring semester. So I think what Mike is asking is if we can modify the rule to where if it's something, where they don't offer those courses in both semesters, where it's out of the player's control, if that is something where they would still be eligible for that fall semester.
And just my comments, my 2 cents on that. I think I talked with you a little bit about this, Alec. How many. We represent 67 teams. How many of our players does this really impact? Is it worth passing a rule? And maybe it is. This is certainly up to you guys. But let's start with that. If does anybody second that specific rule, where it's courses that aren't offered maybe in a fall semester? If there's some type of documentation that a registrar can provide saying that this is these courses aren't available in the fall. That's why this student cannot take those. Can we allow an exception to that full-time status eligibility? So does anybody second that? And again, by seconding a proposal, it is just getting it added to the ballot. It is not making it a rule. So let's start there. Let's see if we can get a second for that. Then we can address, the shot clock in the other rules.
Okay, yeah, I'll go ahead and move on to the shot clock. And if anybody seconds that, put it in the comments. Christian will stop me and let us know if that does get seconded. But as far as the shot clock goes,
and I hate being the king interrupter here, Alec, but we did get a second that from Ryan. Sorry, I'm just terrible. Miss Williams from RPI. She does second that. So adding that to the voting ballot will be, I should say, we will get that added to the voting ballot that will be sent out to the teams. Now, I'll let you get talking. We have 2 people, Alexa and Grace, talking about the shot clock. Grace is from Binghamton. Hallie, I don't know where exactly Alexa is from, but I'll let you. It sounded like you had a comment about the shot clock.
Yeah, and just my 2 cents on it is I think a lot of teams would struggle with the capability of, one, having a court that has the shot clock. If they're playing in the rec center, then they may not have that capability if that's where they normally play. It's also something else to where you might need a second person to work that shot clock. So then they may be having to find another person to work that. So it's definitely something. If it's seconded, we can add to the ballot. I'm not sure. I think Christian, you made it sound like they're from 2 separate schools. So I believe that would count as a second to that.
I believe. I don't. We have Grace is from Binghamton. Alexa Varlamos. I don't know where she is from. But yeah, I would also agree with Alec. A lot of facilities don't have a shot clock available, or a lot of venues that our teams use. They're using high school facilities that may not have the shot clock capabilities. So it would certainly be something that's difficult for us to have in the rule book, but we can certainly bring it to a vote. There's nothing wrong with that. So if we can get somebody to second the adding a shot clock to the voting ballot, we can certainly have that added. And that, as of right now, those Oh, we got looks like Hallie from Wash U. She is, I think, 2 back-to-back games of stopped clock is hard, especially for teams with fewer members. Is that a role up for discussion? So I'm assuming she's looking to have the games as a running clock. So if there's any teams out there that are interested in games moving, I'm assuming conference games moving to a shot clock, please write that you second that specific proposal. And my comments section right now it's not giving me live updates, so I keep having to refresh.
And that last one was for you said a running clock for conference games, correct?
Yes. Okay. And that was actually brought up at the men's meeting last night. A team, Seth Clark from Virginia Military Institute, brought up, having the conference games being a running clock, and then it becoming a stopped clock within the final 2 minutes of each half. And we got somebody, Olivia Toppy, seconding the running clock proposal. So we will get that added to the voting ballot as well.
Okay, awesome. So it sounds like we've got some rules getting added to the ballot here.
We got another, we got Abby Flynn seconding the shot clock. So we will get those 3 added to the voting ballot. So this is all good stuff. This is what makes the league great. Is we want the teams to have a real hand in the rule book, and this is what I love about our leagues, is that we give this to the teams, and certainly get these on the voting ballot and let the teams decide what they want to do. So.
Absolutely. And yeah, I think that just goes back to our mission whenever we're trying to enhance the experience for everybody, year in and year out, we want everybody's voice to be heard, how to make this a better league for everybody. We obviously want to be the best that we can. So thank you to everybody who proposed those rules. I think at this point we'll move on to the next slides, and if there are any more rule proposals, then Christian can stop me and we can go from there. But before we wrap things up here, I just want to give some reminders. The game clock, this is actually something we just touched on the rules portion, but NCBBA-W sanctioned basketball games are played with a stopped clock as of right now. Obviously, that's going to get voted on with this rules ballot, but if nothing changes, it is a stopped clock. That is something that we had brought to our attention quite a bit this past season. So if that doesn't change and you do play with a running clock, then you are running the risk of those games being protestable and potentially being forfeits. Team timeouts. This is another question that I feel like we had quite a bit throughout the season. Each team gets 6 timeouts. You get 4 full and 2 30s. Full timeouts are not to exceed 75 seconds. So you get 4 of those in 2 30s. This is something that we're just going to add to the rule book. Typically when something's not in our rule book, we always go to the NCAA rule book for it. But since we had this question, so many times throughout the season, we're just going to get that added with all the verbiage and everything. So it's, clear cut and everybody can see it. Officials, per NCBBA rules, officials must be at least high school certified. Again, that's another thing that you want to make sure, at least high school certified. They can be college, that's fine. NBA is fine, but they have to be at least high school certified. If they're not, again, you are running the risk of those games being protestable, and also running the risk of forfeits there. Uniforms, I touched on this a little bit earlier, but the jersey tops have to match completely in color and in style. The decorations, trim, stripes, whatever it might be, those do have to match per NCBBA rules. Whenever you're mismatching, things get looking a little sloppy, and looks more intramural than it does a legitimate intercollegiate basketball league, and that's not what we want. So let's not have this looking like intramurals. Again, as I said earlier, the shorts, they don't have to match completely; they just have to match in color. And a big part of this is if you're out of uniform, if you're not wearing matching uniforms, that player is technically at risk of ejection. So the official should give you a warning, and if you do not change into a matching uniform, then you are at risk of ejection from the game.
And Alec, can I butt in?
Absolutely, go ahead.
So, and I just wanted to, not necessarily a rule proposal, but Kira Vance from Michigan State, she had a comment that I may have missed earlier, but I think it's in regards to modifying 6.07.1. She mentioned I do think could be beneficial to players who may have internships through school, but not necessarily count as credits. I know that a lot of seniors tend to do that one of their semesters of their senior year, and that could help them still be able to have that senior season not at the cost of having to take more classes to play. And forgive me, with softball, men's, women's basketball, do we have something in the women's rule book about internships? I know on the club baseball side of things, we have something in the rules where if a senior is taking a mandated internship, that the school views them as full time. Maybe they're only taking 3 credits, but they're also doing an internship, and the school views them as full time. That they are eligible to compete. Is that something in the women's
Yeah,
rule book? I know that was discussed in years past. Is that something
it
that's
is.
going to be in the rule book?
Um, it's actually something it was voted upon last year from this meeting, and it passed. So if you are taking an internship, if you are doing any sort of I believe the verbiage was used as a co-op was what one of the students who brought this rule up was doing. If you are doing that and you're taking less than 12 credit hours, but your university still views you as a full-time student, then you are good to play in the NCBBA, at least on the women's side of things.
So hopefully, Kira, if that is in fact what you were referencing, it does seem as though if you're only taking, maybe it's even 1 credit, if your school does view you as full time, you or your teammates in that situation will be eligible to compete.
Yes. Yep. Thank you for bringing that up, Christian.
Yes, sir.
Back to the reminders. Just as I was stating throughout the whole presentation, some things that need improvement. Getting these weekly team submission forms turned in on time. Like I said, you'll play your games on the weekend, and then you have until all the way till 11:59 p.m. the following Monday to get these submitted. So please make sure to adhere to that deadline, as well as nominating your player of the week on there. Um, you know, make that easier on us. Put stats online, put stats on the form, so we know who played well, what we're looking at. Um, Another thing, participate in the All American nominations. This season, it was a little better than last season. Last season, I think we only had a couple. I'm referring to 21-22 season. But this past 22-23 season, we had a few more. I still think we had less than 10, but so a little better. But try to get your players that recognition. Nominate them, get those stats online, nominate them, and maybe they'll win an All American honor. And a big one I think is less forfeitures. Uh, you know, Everybody pays to be in this league. Your team pays money to play games, so you know, try to do whatever you can to play these games. I'm here to help as much as I can. If these are things that we can avoid, you know, I'm like I said, I'm here to help as much as possible. I can try to help come up with solutions, but try to get these games in as much as you can. If you're the team that somebody the opposing team is trying to forfeit these games, try to be flexible. Maybe see if you can move them. Of course, there's always circumstances where you may not have the availability to move the games, and you just can't avoid it. But if it's avoidable, please do. We just want to see the games get played as much as possible. And also, we need your alumni. This is the volunteer stuff I've been harping on the whole presentation. We're looking for people for regional directors. which this is probably the most time consuming of the three. It's still not a huge time commitment. But with this one, you'll basically be the main line of communication between the players and the league. I'll always be around, so they can still contact me if they ask a question that you don't know. I'm always still there to help. But you'll also do things like update the scores. You'll get those weekly submission forms, update those scores, pick the players of the week. Those be the main responsibilities. Like I said, it's not a huge time commitment, but of these three, probably the most. We're also looking for top 15 voters. We use NCBBA staff for that as well as volunteers. Just looking for people, associated with club basketball who are unbiased and, something that they can do every other week. Take 20 minutes out of your day every other week, and go to the NCBBA website and see what teams are looking good and rank them in your top 15. Lastly, tournament staff. We did have a couple volunteers at our national championship. Actually, Mike, who tuned in for the rules portion of this, he worked one day. It was the Friday of the tournament, and then Edinburgh's team president Joelle, she also volunteered. So we loved having them there. We would love to have more as well. So if that's something you're interested in, keep that in mind when the end of the season comes around. It's actually how I got my start with Call Club Sports. I played club baseball in college. I volunteered at a World Series right after I graduated college, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of we worked the tournaments, and then we'd always go out to eat afterwards. I got to know everybody. I hit it off really well with everybody. I always say it's the easiest job interview that I ever had, because it was just having fun. And then, 2 months later, I was offered a job when they had one open up. So, and I've been here for 4 years now. So it's a great way to get your foot in the door. It's a resume builder. And yeah, it's just a good experience overall. But those are the with that too, with the tournament staff, there's no out of pocket expenses. So if you do have to drive to it, we will reimburse you for gas, and we will cover your food and your lodging for the event as well. That's it as far as the reminders go, and we'll move on to the closing here. So thank you everybody for tuning in. This, again, as Christian was saying earlier, this is how we make our league better. Everybody has their voice heard. So we'll get these rules ballots put together and sent out. Everybody has the opportunity to vote. Continue to promote the league and the website as much as you can, whether that's to friends and family, whether you're playing non-NCBBA club teams, spread the word of us. Maybe they'd be a good fit as well. Give the sponsors business whenever possible. I know sometimes this may not be possible, but we trust them. That's why we're partnered with them. They give great deals to our teams, so take advantage of that whenever you can. Whenever any issues come up, please notify us. Again, this is my job. I'm here to help. I've been with our women's league since it started in 2019. So I'm here to help, and I'll do everything I can possible to make your experience as best as I can. And kind of piggybacking off that, let no question go unanswered. There's no such thing as a dumb question. If you're a new president, an old president, whatever you are, ask away. I'm happy to help, and there's no such thing as a dumb question, and I'll answer it as best as I can. Keep the lines of communication open. Like I said, big part of this, make sure you're communicating with me so I'm not just sending emails into oblivion. Be prompt with meeting the deadlines, like I've been saying the whole time. Just makes everything easier on us. And last but not least, remember, it's a game. Have fun.
And hey, Alec, I hate to...
My big send-off, you interrupted.
Yeah, I know. It was your big, the big send-off that I just interrupted. But I wanted to just thank everybody that tuned in tonight. We appreciate you. It looks like about a little over an hour. We appreciate your time and your commitment to the league. It means a lot to us. We want to make this league as best as it can be, and you're in great hands with Alec. He's done a fantastic job thus far, and we apologize for the audio issues that we had earlier. So again, we thank you for bearing with us for this meeting, because it is an important meeting, And the people that tuned in tonight, we appreciate your time and thank you so much. And just want to make sure that everybody does know that this was recorded. So if you need to go back, I think that team operations section's an invaluable section of the meeting, because a lot of that stuff that Alec went over will be, throughout the course of the year referenced. So knowing that stuff and having that in your back pocket to kind of reference from this meeting will be invaluable to the team. So that's all I wanted to say. I'll let you give the tagline one more time.
Last but not least, remember, it's a game. Have fun.